Hello and welcome to the June 1st, 2025 episode of Nick's News. I am your host, Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we are putting money into this project of ours. We are live every Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on our YouTube channel. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like goodnewsnetwork.org and goodgoodgood.co, but we appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Hello, everybody. My voice is coming back. I am not congested to hell like I was for a while there, so doing much better on the allergy front. I am not dying to them anymore. I am still coughing a little bit, though. So, we'll get through it together. News Brew this week. Let me make sure I've got everything. Oh, there we go. Hey, Becky. And producer Donna. There we go. I had to move some stuff around real quick. So, our News Brew for this week. We've done a lot of news brews with Untitled Art Brewing. They're an amazing brewing company with a huge range of beer, all of which I've enjoyed so far. So we're going to go back to Untitled Art and stepping back into their catalog with this brew. So this... Come on. There we go. This is Riwaka IPA. We're getting into the summer months. Things are heating up, so we tend to get into some lighter beer. Riwaka IPA, so this is a 6% ABV IPA that is designed to showcase the Riwaka hop, which is from Eggers New Zealand Farms. It's not the most known hop. I actually wasn't aware of them until I got this can in my collection, so we're going to try it out and see what the Riwaka hop has to offer the beer community. You'll be traveling with me while I make dinner from Julie. Hi, Julie. Basically warming up stuff for ground turkey tacos. Hello, Nico. All right, so we have our Iron Man pint glass. One of my favorite engineers. Let's crack this open and blow the gain on the audio here. Ooh, tropical. The theatrics of however long it's going to take me to pour this in. And again, I pour straight pour, because I want all that gas out of me. I do not want it in me. So, I don't mind if I have to give it a moment to settle out. Interesting yellow-green color, like a greenish tinge to it. We'll wait for that to settle out. Thank you, Julie. I really enjoy this pint glass. While we wait for that to settle, we'll get into our shout-outs. First shout out for the John Ball Zoo in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They are hosting their annual Lantern Festival from April 9th to June 15th. Specific days with specific hours vary depending on the month, so you need to make sure to check their website. Tickets are required and can be purchased on the website in advance. The Lantern Festival is a 1-mile light tour through John Ball Zoo. The festival features handcrafted Asian lantern displays that will illuminate the zoo and tell the intersecting story of wildlife and Asian culture. There is a link to the John Ball Zoo event if you would like to get your tickets. I know I still need to. It is in my plan to go somewhere between now and June 15th. So, yep, Julie says, yay, John Ball Zoo. The otters and red pandas are a must-see. So to John Ball Zoo. We'll take a sip out of this. Cheers. That is a very flavorful hop. Ooh, there's a lot of tropical fun coming out of that. Riwaka hops, huh? John Ball Zoo is also home of Phil the Penguin. Thank you, Julie. Next shout out for our Nick's Newsies. Hey, Nick's Newsies. We want to see your dog, cat, hamster, lizard, bug, cactus, rose, whatever you've got. We're looking to fill the roster for the Tuesday Flora and Fauna posts, the spotlights that we do on Nick's Newsies Flora and Fauna. Reach out to us here in the YouTube chat or tonight, or if you're willing to share Gosh, I butchered that line. I apologize. I really need to read these ahead of time, don't I? You can reach out to us here in the YouTube chat tonight if you are willing to share the glory of your little friend. Otherwise, you can hit us up on the Facebook Messenger or at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are in the description. To all the Nick's Newsies that have sent in flora and fauna, thank you very much, and cheers. Julie has given us all she has. Indeed, you have, Julie, and we appreciate it. Last shout out on behalf of Nick's News. Happy Pride Month to all of our brothers, sisters, and everyone in between. We see you, we hear you, and we love you. Happy Pride Month. Cheers. Top my beer off. Yeah, there we go. Empty can. Ooh, that's tropical. News quote. Your birds are coming up soon, Julie, from producer Donna. News quote. I love this quote, and I feel it's very fitting, given the time. And recently, a certain somebody that did a commencement at a certain college. My hope still is to leave the world a bit better than when I got here. That comes from James Maury Henson, better known as Jim Henson, the American puppeteer, animator, actor, and filmmaker, best known as the creator of the Muppets. And I love that quote. My hope still is to leave the world a bit better than when I got here. I think that speaks volumes of the line. I don't know if it's an idiom, but I like the line, leave it better than you found it. And I think Jim Henson is reflecting that very well. I think that's something we should all strive for. My hope is to leave the world a bit better than when I got here. To Jim Henson, cheers. Hello, TNT. Hello, Fry. TNT is Fry. Bug update. Elmira is still getting those beauty Z's. Haven't seen her yet. Should be waking up soon. Sue plays a nightmare version of Peekaboo from his hide. It is absolutely terrifying. I'll look over and I will see his claws just sticking out the front of the hide. Like, ha, ha, waiting. Ripley has been surprisingly active lately. While the lights have been on, I've seen Ripley scuttling around. Normally she's very nocturnal, so I think she's probably hungry. I need to throw her a few more crickets. Mantis MacLeod is still with us back there. I can't see him on the terrarium right now, but he is hanging out on top of the tank, and he really is showing that he is an immortal. It's very surprising keeping a male mantis alive this long. He's just chilling and enjoying life. So it is all well in the bug world. Hello, Rogue. Welcome to the channel. Or, welcome to the stream. Alright, let's get into our good news. Our broadcast is broken up into 4 major categories, and those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and lastly, wholesome notes, the really nice articles that we like to end on. We are going to start off in category 1, science and technology, and we called this article, The Air is Salt, the Battery is Salt, the Carbon Capture is Salt. It's all salt. And I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. This is a little bit of a long one, so get ready. MIT's sodium fuel cell powers planes, captures carbon, and outruns batteries. This was posted to SciTech Daily on June 1st of 2025 by David L. Chandler from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. MIT researchers have developed a revolutionary sodium-air fuel cell that could replace heavy lithium-ion batteries in aviation, rail, and marine transport. Using liquid sodium and ambient air, the system offers triple the energy density of current EV batteries, potentially enabling electric aircraft. The cell emits no carbon dioxide and even captures CO2 from the air, producing baking soda as a byproduct. Traditional batteries are starting to hit their limit when it comes to how much energy they can store for their weight. That's a big roadblock for the future of electric transportation, especially for energy-hungry machines like airplanes, trains, and ships. Now, a team of researchers at MIT and their collaborators may have found a way around it. And it's exciting! Instead of a battery, their new design is a fuel cell. Like a battery, it generates electricity through chemical reactions, but there's a major advantage. It can be refueled quickly rather than slowly recharged. So when you see things like hydrogen fuel cells versus our lithium-ion batteries, that right there is the big difference. For the former, the fuel cells, they can be reloaded, they can be refilled with whatever their catalyst is. With batteries, they must be recharged. So it's just a transfer of energy with the latter, a transfer of material with the former. This particular fuel cell uses liquid sodium metal, a low-cost and widely available material, as its energy source. The other ingredient? Ordinary air. A solid ceramic layer between them helps sodium ions move through, while a special electrode on the air side sparks a reaction that produces electricity. When the team tested a prototype, the results were striking. The sodium air fuel cell stored more than 3 times as much energy per kilogram as the lithium-ion batteries. Remember that lithium-ion batteries are like the go-to today for things like electric vehicles and home batteries. And now we've got a simple sodium air fuel cell doing 3 times as much energy per kilogram weight. That's awesome. Sounds salty, says Becky. That's good. That's a massive leap forward. The findings, published on May 27th in the journal Joule, come from MIT doctoral students Karen Sugano, Sunil Mayer, Sahir Ganti Agrawal, Professor Yet-Ming Chang, and colleagues. We expect people to think that this is a totally crazy idea, says Chang, who is the Kyocera professor of ceramics. That's awesome. They add, if they didn't, I'd be a bit disappointed, because if people don't think something is totally crazy at first, it probably isn't going to be that revolutionary. That is a hell of a quote. And this technology does appear to have the potential to be quite revolutionary. He suggests, in particular for aviation, where weight is especially crucial, such an improvement in energy density could be a breakthrough that finally makes electrically powered flight the practical at significant scale. The threshold that you really need for realistic electric aviation is about 1,000 watt-hours per kilogram, Chang says. Today's electric vehicle lithium-ion batteries top out at about 300 watt-hours per kilogram, so well short, nowhere near what's needed. Even at 1,000 watt-hours per kilogram, he says, that wouldn't be enough to enable transcontinental or transatlantic flights. That's still beyond reach for any known battery chemistry, but Chang says that getting to 1,000 watts per kilogram would be an enabling technology for regional electric aviation, which accounts for about 80% of domestic flights and 30% of the emissions from aviation. The technology could be an enabler for other sectors as well, including marine and rail transportation. They all require very high energy density, and they all require low cost, Chang says. And that's what attracted us to sodium metal. Producer Donna, a lot of projects coming out based on salt. We had the nuclear reactor, the salt-based refrigerator for transferring vaccines to places without electricity. Yep, we have done a lot of salt articles in the recent past. A great deal of research has gone into developing lithium air or sodium air batteries over the last 3 decades. But it has been hard to make them fully rechargeable. People have been aware of the energy density you could get with metal air batteries for a very long time, and it's been hugely attractive, but it's just never been realized in practice, Chang says. By using the same basic electrochemical concept, only making it a fuel cell instead of a battery, the researchers were able to get the advantages of the high energy density in a practical form. Unlike a battery whose materials are assembled once and sealed in a container, with a fuel cell, the energy-carrying materials go in and out. The team produced two different versions of a lab-scale prototype of the system. In one, called an H-cell, two vertical glass tubes are connected by a tube across the middle, which contains a solid ceramic electrolyte material and a porous air electrode. Liquid sodium metal fills the tube on one side, and air flows through the other, providing the oxygen for the electrochemical reaction at the center, which ends up gradually consuming the sodium fuel. The other prototype uses a horizontal design, with a tray of the electrolyte material holding the liquid sodium fuel. The porous air electrode, which facilitates the reaction, is affixed to the bottom of the tray. Testing using an airstream with a carefully controlled humidity level produced a level more than 1,500 watt-hours per kilogram at the level of an individual stack, which would translate to over 1,000 watt-hours at the full system level, Chang says. Part of that right there that you've got to be wary of is because it is sodium. It is highly reactive with H2O. Not just with, it's reactive with oxygen, but it's also reactive with hydrogen. So got to be really careful with the humidity and that you're not getting water molecules on this because sodium likes to explode. But otherwise, this is crazy. The researchers envisioned that the use of this system in an aircraft, fuel packs containing stacks of cells, like racks of food trays in a cafeteria, would be inserted into the fuel cells. The sodium metal inside these packs gets chemically transformed as it provides the power. A stream of its chemical byproduct is given off, and in the case of aircraft, this would be emitted out the back, not unlike the exhaust from a jet engine. But there's a big difference. There would be no carbon dioxide emissions. Instead, the emissions, consisting of sodium oxide, would actually soak up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. This compound would quickly combine with moisture in the air to make sodium hydroxide, a material commonly used as a drain cleaner, which readily combines with carbon dioxide to form a solid material, sodium carbonate, which in turn forms sodium bicarbonate, also known as simple baking soda. There's this natural cascade of reactions that happens when you start with sodium metal, Chang says. It's all spontaneous. We don't have to do anything to make it happen. We just have to fly the airplane. As an added benefit, if the final product, the sodium bicarbonate, ends up in the ocean, it could help to deacidify the water, countering another of the damaging effects of greenhouse gases. Using sodium hydroxide to capture carbon dioxide has been proposed as a way of mitigating carbon emissions. But on its own, it's not an economic solution because the compound is too expensive. But here, it's a byproduct, Chang explains, so it's essentially free, producing environmental benefits at no cost. There is a bit more to the article, but it's really just a rehash of everything that we've gone over. If you want to take the time to go through it, by all means, there's just a little bit more information to glean in there, but for the most part, we've covered it, and that is a huge article. To everybody at MIT involved with creating sodium metal fuel cells that can potentially one day outdo lithium-ion batteries and replace them, and even allow us to fly electric aircraft. Cheers. All right, that's going to get us out of science and technology. We're going to move on to category 2, health and medicine. We've got one article in this section, and we called it Antiviral Children of the Corn. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. A 19-year-old, say that 5 times fast, antiviral children of the corn, 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 antiviral children of the corn. Is something bad going to happen? Is corn going to start growing out of my floor and there's going to be like children coming over with scythes? That'd be horrifying. Oh my gosh. All right. A 19-year-old won $100,000 for inventing a cheaper, faster way to make antiviral drugs out of corn husks. I had said to producer Donna earlier that the article should be like, time to shuck the antivirus, but I think antiviral Children of the Corn is much better. Beetlejuice, says Tim. Oh, you got me coughing. Oh. Self-described as merely someone from a small... Oh, sorry. This article was posted to goodnewsnetwork.org on May 27th of 2025 by Andy Corbley. Self-described as merely someone from a small village in a small European country, young Adam Kovalchuk won the top prize in America's most prestigious science fair with his invention of a quicker, cheaper method of making a popular antiviral drug out of corn husk. Reducing the cost per gram from $75 to just $12 and the production time per batch from 9 days to just 5, it could dramatically increase the supply of galidesivir, used to treat RNA virus Ebola, Marburg, Zika, and SARS-CoV-2. The 19-year-old from Dolovci, Slovakia, flew to Ohio to attend the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair, the world's largest pre-college science and engineering competition hosted by the Society for Science. Kovalchuk won the $100,000 George D. Yankopoulos Innovator Award, the highest honor available, for his presentation on the production of galidesivir from corn waste, which the judge described as a bulletproof presentation. I cannot describe this feeling, Kovalchuk told Business Insider. I did not expect such a huge international competition to be won by someone from a small village in a small European country, so it was just pure shock. His innovation essentially arrives at the production of galidesivir via another door, one through which only 10 steps are needed rather than 15. The molecule at the heart of Kovalchuk's process is called furfuryl alcohol, distilled from corn husks. One by one, a series of chemicals are added until the mixture obtains the composition of azasaccharide, a sugar from which only 3 more changes are needed to get to galidesivir. He was able to shortcut this entire process. Chris Rodee, a chemist and retired patent examiner who judged the competition, told Business Insider. He basically halved the number of steps because he just went in through a different door. Kovalchuk has already filed for a preliminary patent for his production process, plans to work with a research group at the Slovak University of Technology in Bratislava to improve the process, and has concocted an idea to use his prize money to start a company that manufactures eco-friendly perfumes from corn. Wow! That is crazy! To Adam Kovalchuk, who found a way to make the antiviral galidesivir, which normally takes $75 per gram, down to 12 and cut the steps and the time to make it. And mind you, this is something that fights Ebola, Marburg, Zika, and SARS-CoV-2. Cheers. That's awesome. Hey, Mona. All right, that gets us out of health and medicine. We're going to move on to category 3, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. We've got 2 wonderful articles in here. Our first one is going to be an All the Buzz article. So I will copy and paste that in the chat if y'all want to read along. North Carolina beekeepers unite to revive honeybee population after Hurricane Helen's destruction. This was posted to WRAL News on May 22nd of 2025 by Mary Alice Bell. Hurricane Helen hit western North Carolina in late September of 2024, wreaking havoc in the mountains. People lost everything, including honeybees. According to the North Carolina State Apiculture Program at North Carolina State University, it's estimated that 70 to 90% of working beehives in the mountains were destroyed by Helen. Now, there is a project to bring them back. In October, Dr. David Tarpey with North Carolina State's Apiculture Department came up with an idea to get new beehives to western North Carolina. He told WRAL, "When the hurricane hit, everyone wanted to do something right away. A harness of goodwill, and we developed a program to begin to bring honeybees back to Western Carolina." A group from the North Carolina State Beekeepers Association went to the mountain counties affected and assessed the situation. From there, a project was born, and beekeeping groups from around the state were assigned to certain counties to help bring the honeybees back. In all, there are 10 to 12 groups around the state working with different counties in the mountains to restore the beehives. Folks are bringing up that next weekend my voice may be trashed because I have an event that I'm going to, and I'm going to probably be doing a lot of talking. Hopefully I'll be okay, but we'll find out. The Wake County Beekeepers Association teamed up with the Harnett County, Johnston County, Lee County, and Moore County Beekeepers Associations to form the Ashe County Honeybee Recovery Project. It was this project's mission to help Ashe County beekeepers recover from Helen's devastation and rebuild their honeybee population. Gordon Goking, project manager for the Ashe County Honeybee Recovery Project, connected with Todd Swanson, the leader of the Ashe County Beekeeper Association, and told him he estimates close to 500 beehives were destroyed in Ashe County. Each hive is worth approximately $220. The group decided to get to work on what they could do in the spring, what they could do. So in the spring, Ashe County would have everything they needed to get their honeybee population growing again. On a Saturday in November, about 20 people from the project headed to Ashe County. In that weekend, they built 300 beehives that included 4,000 frames. 10 frames go into each hive, and the frames are where the honeycomb grows. If you haven't looked into an actual, like a beehive. Like a commercial beehive. Honeybees and their hives are extremely important. Stephen Ross and the Wake County Beekeepers Associations explained, "Why these beehives are so important is mostly because a lot of our food requires pollination. And to get them and allow them to produce fruit and vegetables, even on a macro level scale, pollinators such as honeybees are very critical to the agriculture industry. So even the bees in my backyard, they're pollinating blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, squash, and other things that might be around in the area, and they're very critical to that. Being pollinators is not a honeybee's only important job. A honeybee's honey is an extremely important revenue source. Bringing the bees back means honey and other products can be made and sold again." Chrissy Ross with the Wake County Beekeepers Association said people missed out on harvest festivals because the harvest festivals took place all of October. So they're missing out on thousands and thousands of dollars in revenue that they usually would be taking their honey to sell at those harvest festivals. Honey is a very important product people like to have a lot of. I always have a bottle or a jar of like the nice thistle honey that we get from around here from local beekeepers. It's fantastic stuff. There are always other products that come from bees too, so it's important because you learn so much about the creative world in which you live by keeping honeybees. They add so much. With donations and help from all over the beekeeping community in North Carolina, the recovery project to bring the honeybees back to the Helen-hit areas is in full swing. The honeybees are now being sent up to Ashe County. "You know, we felt that if we help the beekeepers replace some of the beehives, they'll be ahead come the spring of 2025 and going forward to recover, and also might give them hope and something to focus on and feel good about as they try to recover from all the devastation that's happened up there," Goking said. That is awesome. To everybody involved with the new North Carolina State Beekeepers Association and the Ashe County Honeybee Recovery Project for bringing back the bees and putting in so much work, cheers. All right, we called this next one Homeward Bound, an Oyster Story. Word of warning. This is a New England-based article. I will be adopting a New England-style accent while I read this article. Enjoy. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Mind you, it is a New York Times article. I don't know if it is going to make you subscribe, and if it does, we will probably find a different one. Becky says, yay bees. Alright. Shell recyclers in... how do I do this? Look, listen, I'm talking here. There we go. Shell recyclers in Connecticut are helping oysters find homes. A small team is rescuing a ridiculous amount of shells from restaurant trash bins and using them to rebuild oyster habitat in Long Island Sound. This was posted to the New York Times on April 21st of 2025 by Kate Selig. Summer in New England means lobster rolls, fried seafood, and, of course, freshly shucked oysters. But there's a problem. Those empty shells usually end up in a dumpster instead of back in the water, where they play a key role in the oyster life cycle. Oyster larvae attach to shells, where they grow into adults and form reefs that improve water quality, prevent coastal erosion, and create habitat for other marine life. 2 men in Connecticut are working to fix that. They've started a statewide program to collect discarded shells from local restaurants, dry them, and return them to the Long Island Sound for restoration projects. Becky says, ooh, lobster rolls. I miss those. Becky, if you go to Newego Brewing ever, they actually have lobster rolls, and they are fantastic. We fill that missing piece, said Tim Macklin, a co-founder of Collective Oyster Recycling and Restoration, the nonprofit group leading the effort. It's one of several shell recycling programs that have emerged to help reverse the steep decline in oyster populations along the U.S. coastlines, a drop that experts largely attribute to overharvesting, habitat degradation, and disease. Some of the largest programs process more than 1 million pounds of shells per year. The Connecticut group is smaller, but growing. In 2024, it collected about 375,000 pounds of shell. This year, working with a network of about 50 restaurants across Connecticut and a commercial seafood supplier, they're on track to surpass 400,000 pounds, with plans to keep expanding. Shell recycling sounds like a great idea, says Mona in the chat. What further sets their effort apart is that it's essentially a 2-man operation. Unlike larger programs that rely on volunteers, most of the day-to-day work falls on Mr. Macklin and Todd Koenke, or Todd Koenke. Koenke. We're going to call him Koenke, who founded the project together with Eric Victor, who is retired but still lends a hand occasionally. Sandra Brook, a researcher at Florida State University who has studied shell recycling efforts in the United States, said the group was among the few collecting a ridiculous amount of shell for the size of the program. She added, "Good for them." Mr. Macklin, who's 51, and Mr. Koenke, who's 50, fell into oyster shell recycling about a decade ago. They were members of a local shellfish commission, and surprised to learn that Connecticut, unlike other coastal states, did not have a robust shell recycling program. On weekends, they would voluntarily stop by restaurants to collect discarded shells, hoping to one day turn their efforts into something bigger. Look, listen, this is pretty freaking fantastic here. That opportunity arrived in 2023 when they secured a $400,000 state grant. They also received funding from grant-making programs focused on the Long Island Sound. Mr. Macklin, who worked in television production, and Mr. Koenke, who worked in beverage can recycling, left their full-time jobs. Mr. Victor came partially out of retirement to help. They bought a truck and a trailer, and recruited restaurants who participate in the program free of charge. I'm here, says Charlie in the chat. The process is simple, but oh gosh, I can't. I've got to try to keep this accent up. Normally, I only use it in bits and pieces. Sorry about that. Probably blew the audio on that one. Oh, all right, here we go. The process is simple, but labor-intensive. Collective Oyster Recycling and Restoration supplies restaurants with 5-gallon screw-top buckets for discarded shells, which Mr. Macklin and Mr. Conkey pick up once a week. Most of the haul is oyster and clam shells, though restaurants occasionally toss in mussels and other shellfish. To make it easier, we just say we'll take any of your shellfish shells, Mr. Conkey said. We try not to say no. Think of it as practice for next weekend, said Rogue, when I'm going to be doing a lot of talking. The shells are transported to a storage site in East Haven, a defunct quarry that's high, dry, and far enough from homes to avoid any odor issues. There, the shells sit exposed to the elements for at least 6 months to kill any lingering pathogens. When the weather warms, the shells are returned to the water at designated restoration sites. Most are planted in a state-owned oyster bed off the coast of Bridgeport and Stratford that is closed to harvesting. Some also go to a small group of local shellfish harvesters who do their own restoration work. At the dock, the shells are loaded onto boats using a conveyor belt. Out on the water, they're either blasted off the boat with a high-powered hose or shoveled overboard. Oyster larvae can then attach to the shells, their preferred surface, and develop into mature oysters to help rebuild the habitat. You're growing on Grandpa, Mr. Conkey said, referring to the old shells. It's just the perfect environment for them. Brian Hurlburt, the state's agricultural commissioner, said Connecticut was tracking the shells placed on the state-owned bed. Since the first shells have only been in the water for about a year, he said it was too early to gauge their impact. Still, he's optimistic about the program's potential to support not only the environment, but the long-term viability of the state's aquaculture industry. People think about it as boating and beaches, Mr. Hurlburt said of Long Island Sound. We think about it as farmland. Dan Miser, who owns Oyster Club, an upscale farm and sea-to-table restaurant in Mystic, said he was excited when first approached about the program, but he had questions. What would it cost? Who would pick up the shells? Collective Oyster Recycling and Restoration made it easy to say yes, he said. Oyster Club shucked nearly 300,000 oysters last year. The shells are collected in the kitchen, and customers learn about the recycling efforts on signs and in conversations with staff. It's a good tidbit of knowledge that the oysters they eat that night are going to make their way back into Long Island Sound, Mr. Miser said. That was an absolutely fantastic article from New England. Just a couple of guys in Connecticut collecting oyster shells. Let me find the names again. What's Mr. Macklin's first name? Macklin. To Tim Macklin and Todd Conkey for starting off this business, just collecting oysters and oyster shells and recycling them. Collective oyster recycling and restoration so that future generations of oysters can grow up. Cheers. Was this CORR or a different group, asks producer Donna. So this was Collective Oyster Recycling and Restoration. Yes, they are the co-founders of it. I am going to drop this accent because I am going to absolutely destroy my vocal cords if I keep it up. Oh, gosh. Charlie, Nick is doing an article about clams in New England, so he is entertaining us with an accent. I don't do it often, but when I do, I go full Boston. What is life right now? Asks Charlie. Oh, man. Oh, take a drink, Nick, said Julie. Yeah, I'll take another one to wet my whistle. It's like he's from Boston, eating beans and chowder, drinking a beer. Says Julie, this feels like a fever dream, says Charlie. It could be a fever dream, Charlie. This episode of Nick's News might not be real. It may be a dream. It may be all in your mind. Nick's News might have finally wormed its way into your brain, and you are dreaming of Nick's News. And that's about all of that I'm going to do before we get copyright struck. So, don't you do that to me, says Charlie. All right, let's move on. We are going to get out of flora and fauna. We are going to move on to our final category, wholesome notes. And we've got 2 articles that are back-to-back articles. They are one and then the other. And we are going to go through both of them. The first half of this is a Savior of All Ages article. And I'm going to copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Boy saves man's life in textbook surf rescue. This was posted to the BBC on May 1st of 2025 by Lisa Young. A 14-year-old boy who rescued a seriously injured paddleboarder in a rough sea has been praised for saving the man's life with a textbook rescue. Oscar paddled to the aid of a man who had been hit on the head by his board, leaving him temporarily paralyzed in heavy surf at Saunton Sands in Devon on Friday of that week. Working alone, Oscar pulled Gavin Bowden, 60, onto his board, signaled to the shore for help, and kept him afloat for about 30 minutes before the RNLI inshore lifeboat arrived. Julie says, this episode of Nick's News brought to you by The Matrix. Mr. Bowden, who was treated in hospital until Monday of that week, said, Oscar is my hero. Oscar, a junior surf lifesaver at the club, said he did not hesitate to act to help the man, even though he was much bigger than him. He said, I saw someone had been injured on their board and just instinctively went over to see them and to see if they were okay, which they weren't, and then I helped them. Pretty straightforward. I was quite scared at the beginning that I wouldn't be able to lift him because he's quite a big guy, but I just had the determination to help him. Oscar said the man had told him he had no feeling in his arms or legs and he had a cut on his forehead. Despite waves flipping the board over, the young lifesaver succeeded in lifting the man half onto the paddleboard. He said the swell had been increasing and the waves were looking menacing, so he took the decision to head further out rather than risk trying to get to the shore. He said, I knew he had a big board strapped to his leg, and if I tried to go in and a wave came and he gets hit off, he'd get dragged in and I might lose sight of him. It could have just got so much worse. Mr. Bowden said the blow from the board had left him paralyzed face down in the water. He had managed to flip over and started shouting for help. He said, I called help 3 times and then Oscar was there and said, I'm here. He was trying to hang on to me and trying to wave, and I was saying, don't leave me, kid, don't leave me. And he was saying, I won't leave you. I won't leave you. Oscar said, I started to calm him down because he almost started panicking and he was worrying about what was going to happen next, but I just tried to keep him calm whilst waving to Dad and Neil. His father, Danny, had been watching Oscar surf from the shore while with Neil Phillips, a coach for Saunton Sands Surf Lifesaving Club Juniors. Danny said, the first way we realized something was wrong was when we just saw 2 dots close together and a small arm waving frantically with the correct signals of a surfer in distress in the water. He phoned the Coast Guard and approached surfers on the beach, but none of them were able to reach Oscar and the injured man in the building swell. Danny said there had been an element of uncertainty as they tried to ascertain whether it was his son or the paddleboarder who had been injured, but Oscar's signals confirmed he was the one doing the rescuing. Mr. Phillips said Oscar's rescue was just textbook. I'm very good friends with Gavin, so I was doubly emotionally invested watching Oscar looking after a friend of mine. I'm really proud of Oscar. He was just amazing. He saved a life. Producer Donna added, he is only 11. This young boy is 11 and rescued this man in growing swells. A RNLI inshore lifeboat crew arrived at the scene after about 30 minutes and took Mr. Bowden to shore, from where he was taken to the Royal Devon Hospital in Exeter for emergency treatment. Oscar paddled to shore and was met by his father and Mr. Phillips. He said, when I got to the beach, it kind of hit me, and I was a bit sad and a bit upset, but I talked to my dad and called Mom. They helped a lot. Adrian Mayhew, National Operations and Safety Manager at Surf Life Saving GB, said, I've been in lifesaving since 1997, and I've never seen anybody of such a young age go out in waves as big as that and have the maturity to recognize the situation, recognize they need assistance, and to manage that for 30 minutes is literally unheard of. On Thursday, Mr. Bowden said he was getting better, although his hands were still numb due to his spinal cord having been stretched when the board hit his head. And now, I'm going to hold off on my beer to get into the second half, which we called Happy Reunion. And I will copy and paste this into the chat to keep us moving. Man reunited with little hero who saved his life. This too was posted to the BBC on the 3rd of May, 2025 by Lisa Young. A man who was seriously injured while paddleboarding has met the 14... So, second article says 14. Could have been wrong. We might have a problem there. I might have jumped the gun on how old he is. If that's the case, I apologize. A man who was seriously injured while paddleboarding has met the 14-year-old boy who saved his life. Oscar paddled to help Gavin Bowden, 60, after he was hit on the head by his board in heavy surf at Saunton Sands in North Devon on the 25th of April. The junior member of Saunton Sands Surf Life Saving Club worked alone to pull Mr. Bowden onto his board, signaled to the shore, and kept him afloat for 30 minutes until help arrived. After Mr. Bowden left hospital, he was reunited with Oscar and called him my little hero. Mr. Bowden told Oscar's parents, he's a great kid. He saved my life. In an emotional reunion... double checked. He is 14. In an emotional reunion, Mr. Bowden hugged and thanked the young surf lifesaver. Mr. Bowden told the BBC what he remembered about what had happened that day when he realized he could not move his arms or legs and was totally paralyzed. He said, I called help, 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 and the little kid, I didn't know his name was Oscar, came over and said, I've got you. He started trying to reassure me, asking me my name and about my family and whether I was married. All the stuff he's obviously been trained to do. He was really good. They sent me a guardian angel that day, he said. Oscar said he had been quite scared at the beginning, that I wouldn't be able to lift him because he's quite a big guy, but I just had the determination to help him. He said when I arrived, Gavin was panicked and shaken. When he got his chest onto the board, I went underneath him and just hauled him up, then went back around and grabbed him and pulled him up. Then I interlocked arms with him so I knew he wouldn't go anywhere. I waved to my dad and started heading out. Neil Phillips, a coach at Saunton Sands Surf Life Saving Club, said Oscar had carried out a textbook rescue. He said Oscar talked to Gavin. He protected him. He got him up on his board. He kept giving him reassurance all the time, and he wasn't tempted to bring Gavin in through the break, which would have been a disaster with a neck injury. He was just amazing. Absolutely fantastic. To Oscar, a 14-year-old boy who is part of a junior surf life-saving club and went out into rough seas to rescue 60-year-old Gavin Bowden, who had become paralyzed due to an injury while boarding. Cheers. You are a savior. Mona with the Surf's Up lifeguard helmet or lifesaver helmet emojis. Perfect combo. That's it for our broadcast tonight. 6 amazing articles, especially ending with Oscar, the 14-year-old savior at sea. Just some great articles tonight. Some really good news from around the world that we are happy to share with you all. So we thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Knicks News YouTube page. Again, we're live every Sunday, and our next episode will be a cool news episode on June 8th of 2025. That's right, we are going to have our cool news episode on our next broadcast. I encourage participation, so if you feel inclined, you can message us to post suggestions for news brews, for shout-outs, news quotes, and especially good news articles that we can present on future episodes of Nick's News. If possible, we do appreciate a variety of articles spread out across our 4 major categories, and those categories, again, were science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice articles we like to end on, like Oscar tonight. Also, if you have ideas for flora and fauna, aka if you have pets or plants that you keep and you would like to show them off on our Tuesday posts of Nick's Newsies Flora and Fauna, by all means, send those in to either message us on Facebook or send those into our email at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. I check it daily. I actually check it quite a bit. Great places to message us. You can also message us on Instagram. We do have an Instagram. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on all of our Facebook and YouTube videos to get our good news out into the algorithm. I will never tell you what to do, but I can't thank you all enough for everything you have done. You have continued to help grow Nick's News through word of mouth and word of post with your interactions with our content. I can't thank you all enough for that. I love trying to get our Hope Core stuff out into the world to combat all that bad news we're bombarded with on a daily basis. So to all of you, thank you again. And as always, thank you again. I love you all. Have a great night. And I will play us out.